Today I'm going to be drawing on a very obscure and expensive canvas, and I'm bloody terrified. This is the iconic Akubra hat that most Australians know and love. And I'm about to deliberately and permanently mark this. And on top of that stress, this is actually a very special gift for someone, and I really want to get it right. So let's double that stress. I'm going to be using my Derwent Inktense pencils to bring my design to life on this Akubra. My theory behind using the Inktense pencils is they are an ink base and can only be activated with water once. So once I put the colour onto the hat, I've activated it with the water and it's dry, the colour shouldn't shift. In theory anyway. But before I go to facing this pristine hat with my theory, I'm actually going to do a test run on this old Akubra. My husband has very kindly offered up his Akubra, not his good going out one, but his old bush bashing one, as a bit of a test dummy and for some practice. So I'm going to pop on a simple design, one that I hope he will like. No pretty flowers here. It's a simple gecko outline. Why a gecko? Well, he works on a mine site in far north of WA, and outside his donga, which is his living quarters, at night he has several geckos that make a bit of a racket. Apparently when geckos get together they get pretty loud. We have fondly named them Gazza and Shazza the geckos. Once I transferred my design, which I created in Procreate on my iPad, I used the Derwent Inktense pencils to make a nice bold outline using a dark brown, then a different shade of brown to add a bit of interest to the centre of the design. It's not a very detailed design, but I still want it to look nice, and I'm happy to report my husband actually really likes it. Once the pencil work is done, I run over the entire thing very carefully and painfully slowly with a water brush. I find that water brushes are the best option for the Inktense pencils, and lucky for me, my daughter bought me a set in a variety of sizes for Christmas. Once it's all dry, I bravely rub my finger over the design to see if it stays put. I also rub a cloth vigorously over it, and even though there is a small amount of transfer, it's not smudging all over the hat. So I'm taking this as a success, and it's time to work on the main hat. I spent months trying to come up with a design I was happy with and that would be meaningful to the recipient. I wanted it to be a bit of a doodly design, simple but attractive. So I started with this flowery pattern as a bit of fun and practice. I will link in the description below for the tutorial I purchased and used to help me create this design. Then I tried to inject some more of my own style into the design, plus some elements that, again, would be meaningful to the recipient. I worked for hours with these pencil designs, getting them just right. Then I tried playing around with the flowers and pencils together. I would try something and think for days on it, but nothing I did left me feeling as happy as I did when I did the first flower print with no pencils. So after months of agonising over what to do, I accepted I needed to stop forcing the pencils into the design and just go with what I knew was working. Once I'm content, I print the final design in the size I need and work at transferring it onto the hat. On the reverse of the image, I apply lead pencil over the line work of the flowers, using as little as possible to hopefully avoid smudging lead all over the clean hat. Unlike the smaller gecko design, the larger flower print is not wrapping around the hat for a clean transfer. So I tried cutting it into two. That didn't work, so I print and cut out the flowers individually. I also decided not to do a lead transfer, but instead trace around the flowers and fill in the details freehand. Let me save you that process. With the pencil liner on there, it's time to select my colours. I cycled through several different palettes from my colour cubes, but landed on this one, taken from the box of my Sarah Renee Clark 2022 planner. It's time to make this design permanent. I was so nervous, as once that ink pencil is on there, that's it, no turning back. And if I stuff it up, it's game over. But once I got going, it got easier. And before I knew it, the whole thing was outlined. Now, I'm sure I had a sound reason for lining the design first, but for the life of me, I don't remember what that reason was. I should have done the colour first, but oh well, too bad and too late. I go over the whole thing with my water brush, and let me show you how slow this process is for a few seconds. That was real time, but everything else you'll see will be sped up. A lot, because it's painfully slow. You see, these hats are felt, so you have to work the water into the fibres without flooding too much water on the ink lines, otherwise the water will create puddles of ink on the hat. It was slow going, but a bit of Netflix and YouTube in the background made this a very relaxing process. And to be honest, I think the outline on its own looks quite nice. But I do want colour. For the first flower, I laid down the colour and then went in straight after to apply the water, just to see how it was looking. Even though I'd done the gecko, I still wasn't confident this would work. But this little flower seemed fine, so I pushed on with the rest of the image, just getting the base coat of pencil down all over the design. Then I would go back over the whole thing with my water brushes. Now, I can't take credit for this idea of customising an Akubra using pencils. You see, this gift is for a very special lady who did an extremely generous thing for me about 6 months ago. Most of my subscribers will know what I'm talking about, but if you've got no idea, I'll link a video in the description that will explain everything. Ever since that day, I've wanted to give her something that truly shows my gratitude. But going out to buy some flowers or chocolates or whatever just didn't seem to cut it. I wanted the gift to be meaningful, take care and effort, and be from the heart. Something a bit Aussie and a bit arty and just a little quirky. So one day, discussing what I should do with my husband, he suggested the customise Akubra idea. At first I wasn't too keen. I'd never seen one done, I didn't know how I could do it, and explained to hubby that if I paint on a hat it will ruin the look and feel of the fabric. So he asked, why not just use pencils? And I thought about it and realised he had a point. We did a little swatch test on the bottom of his old Akubra using Prismacolor pencils and it showed up really well, but I worried the design would smudge without using some sort of sealer or finisher that might wreck the fabric. That's when the Inktense pencils came to my mind, as I had recently used them on my Cinderella makeover background, and a small swatch of those on the hat appeared to work. And the rest, as they say, is history. When I was applying the water for the coloured areas, unlike the line work, I would carefully let some of the water pool as I wanted it to shift and float the ink around to give it a more watercolour effect. I also used darker shades of the colours, plus white, to try and create some subtle depth. I didn't want it to be overly detailed or realistic, as that just wouldn't suit the look and feel of this hat. And I really do feel like I'm pulling this off, and I have to say the relief was immense. There are a few places where the line work got too heavy, or the water got away from me, or I think areas got a little busy, like the yellow flower with the pink dots. But overall, I'm very content. Dare I say happy, and just a little proud of how this hat was turning out. The last step is to ever so carefully go over all the line work again with that dark brown pencil. This time I went over the line with water first, then quickly over with the pencil, then more water to fix it. I found by putting down that line of water first, it made for a smoother and bolder line. This hat was a thought in my head for so long. I was so terrified it wouldn't live up to my imagination, And while it's not exactly what I dreamt up, I love it. I'm proud of it and I feel good gifting it. I just hope she likes it too. Thanks for watching and I hope to see you next time.